Grandma Shiva's Greenhouse Time Machine. A collection of short stories, by Sean Wheeler, Temple of Leila, copyright 2023. Preface. Grandma Shiva's Greenhouse Time Machine is a collection of short stories that will take you on a journey through time, space, and consciousness. Each story is a unique exploration of the human experience, delving into themes of love, loss, redemption, and transformation. From a man with godlike powers battling demons from another dimension, to a group of time-traveling eco-activists fighting to save the planet, to a young woman discovering her true identity through her connection to the cosmos, these stories are bound to captivate and inspire readers of all ages. Written by Sean Wheeler and published by Temple of Leila Publishing House, Grandma Shiva's Greenhouse Time Machine is a testament to the power of storytelling and imagination. It is a tribute to the human spirit and our innate desire to connect with something greater than ourselves. Whether you're a fan of science fiction, fantasy, or just great storytelling, this collection of short stories is sure to leave a lasting impression. So sit back, relax, and let the adventure begin. He Virtual Garden. As the bell rings, Nada, Robert, Kayla, and Morgan rush out of the school to meet their friend, Grandma Shiva, at her house across the street. They can't wait to play the latest VR game with her. As they walk into the house, they see Grandma Shiva setting up the PlayStation X VR deep dive console with her headset. "Are we going to play the new game, Grandma?" asked Morgan, excitedly. "Yes, my little adventurers," replied Grandma Shiva. "Today we will explore the virtual garden." The children put on their headsets and are transported to a beautiful garden filled with colorful flowers, lush greenery, and singing birds. They see a path leading to a large tree in the center of the garden. "Let's go see what's up there," said Robert, pointing to the tree. As they approach the tree, they hear a faint voice calling out to them. "Who's there?" asked Kayla, looking around. "I am the guardian of the garden," replied the voice. "You must solve my riddle to proceed." The children listen attentively as the guardian poses a riddle. "I am always hungry, I must always be fed, the finger I touch will soon turn red. What am I?" After a few minutes of brainstorming, Nada shouts out, "Corncob." "Correct," exclaimed the guardian. "You may proceed." As the children continue along the path, they encounter various challenges and puzzles, such as crossing a river by building a bridge with stones or finding hidden keys to unlock doors. At the end of the path, they reach a gate that leads to a magical castle. "Welcome to the Castle of Dreams," announced the gatekeeper, who appears to be a friendly dragon. "You have proven your worthiness to enter." The children enter the castle and are amazed by the sights and sounds around them. They explore the castle and meet various characters, including a talking cat and a friendly giant. They even get to ride on the back of a flying dragon. As the sun sets in the virtual garden, Grandma Shiva reminds them that they have been playing for hours and it's time to head back to reality. "That was amazing, Grandma," exclaimed Morgan. "Can we come back and play again tomorrow?" "Of course, my little adventurers," replied Grandma Shiva with a smile. "We have many more adventures to come." And with that, the children remove their headsets and return to the real world, eagerly anticipating their next journey into the metaverse with Grandma Shiva. Chapter 2, The Battle for Planet Leila. Grandma Shiva and her grandchildren's gaming guild, Grandma Shiva's Greenhouse Time Machine, are in the metaverse once again. This time, they are not in a peaceful garden, but in the midst of a futuristic, robotismech war on the planet Leila. As they enter the game, they find themselves in a military base surrounded by dozens of armored vehicles and mechs. Grandma Shiva, who is now Siva, leads the platoon of 5 into a briefing room where they receive their mission. "Our mission is to capture the enemy's control center," said Siva. "We must fight our way through the enemy lines and reach the center before they can launch a counterattack." The platoon puts on their virtual reality headsets and enters their robotic mechs. The mechs are massive and heavily armed, equipped with lasers, missiles, and cannons. As they move out of the base, they see the enemy forces on the horizon, waiting for them. "Let's do this," shouted Nada, as they charged forward. The battle was intense. The platoon fought their way through the enemy lines, taking out enemy mechs and vehicles. Siva led the charge, firing her laser cannons and missiles, destroying everything in her path. "Keep moving forward, everyone," commanded Siva. "We're almost there." As they approached the enemy control center, they encountered heavy resistance. The enemy had set up defenses, including turrets and mines. "We need to take out those defenses," shouted Robert. The platoon worked together, taking out the turrets and mines while Siva focused on the enemy mechs. As they destroyed the final enemy mech, they rushed into the control center. "We did it," exclaimed Kayla. "Mission accomplished." But the victory was short-lived. Suddenly, they heard a loud explosion outside. The enemy had launched a counterattack. "We have to get out of here," yelled Morgan. The platoon raced back to their mechs and fought their way out of the enemy base. They were pursued by the enemy mechs and vehicles, firing at them with all their weapons. "Grandma Shiva, what do we do?" cried Nada. "We have to get back to our base," replied Siva. "We'll have to fight our way through, but we can make it." The platoon fought their way back to their base, taking out enemy forces along the way. They finally reached the safety of their base, exhausted but victorious. "That was amazing," exclaimed Robert. "I can't wait for the next battle." But little did they know, the greatest battle was yet to come, and the fate of the entire metaverse was at stake. Chapter 3, Love in Tartaria. Siva, the battle protocol droid ready for war, donned his VR headset. He entered the metaverse as a human named Sean. He was sent on a mission to retrieve a powerful alien artifact from the enemy's stronghold with the aid of an exotic mysterious assassin named Yoko. As they navigated the battlefield, Sean and Yoko grew closer. In the chaos of war, they found solace in each other's company, and soon their bond turned into a beautiful mission to conceive the next evolutionary step of mankind. But they knew their love was doomed from the start. Sean was a musician and artist, and Yoko was a Tartarian pop star, computer hacker, and con artist who worked for the Tartarian organized crime syndicate. They both dreamed of escaping Tartaria and starting a new life together in Scotland. But their escape plan was shattered when the Tartarian crime syndicate caught wind of their plan. Yoko owed them too much money, and they would never let her leave. Sean and Yoko's relationship became strained as they desperately tried to come up with a new plan. One day, Sean received a message from an anonymous source promising him enough credits to pay off Yoko's debt in exchange for a dangerous mission. Sean accepted the offer, hoping it would be their ticket to freedom. The mission was a success, but when Sean returned, he found Yoko dead and their zygote incubator from the infantorium destroyed. The Tartarian crime syndicate had discovered their plan, and they had taken their revenge. Sean was heartbroken, and his grief quickly turned into a burning rage. As he sought revenge against the Tartarian crime syndicate, he discovered the truth behind the anonymous message. It was a trap. He had been set up by the same people he was trying to take down. In a fit of rage, Sean destroyed the entire Tartarian crime syndicate, but at a great cost. He lost himself in the process, becoming a shell of his former self. It wasn't until years later that Sean finally found closure. He discovered their zygote was being grown in another infantorium facility and had never died, and that it was all part of a simulation to test Sean's loyalty. But by then, it was too late. Sean was long gone, consumed by his own rage and grief. As the adventure comes to an end and the VR headsets are removed, the guild members realize that Grandma Shiva was playing the role of Sean, while Nada was playing the role of Yoko. They are all shocked by the tragic ending of the love story they just experienced in the virtual world. Grandma Shiva is left deeply affected by the experience, realizing that the virtual world can have just as much of an impact on emotions and relationships as the real world. The guild members comfort each other and vow to continue on their virtual reality adventures together, knowing that the power of their collective imagination can create amazing and emotional stories. Chapter 4, Island Paradise. Jeebus the rooster strutted through the lush greenery of the island paradise, his feathers shining in the sunlight. He couldn't believe his luck to be living in such a paradise with his beloved pretty girl. They had been together, for years now and had raised many chicks in their cozy little nest. But as happy as they were, Jeebus couldn't help but feel a bit uneasy about the new alliance with the cats. He knew all too well how they could be, and he didn't trust them one bit. Pretty Girl sensed his unease and nuzzled up against him. "It'll be okay, Jeebus," she clucked reassuringly. "The cats have promised to leave our little ones alone, and we have plenty of food and friends to protect us." Jeebus nodded, still unconvinced, but as days went by and the truce remained intact, he started to relax. The cats kept their promise and the roosters and hens enjoyed their peaceful life in the lagoon, feasting on the juicy tropical fruits and chasing after the plentiful bugs. But one day, as Jeebus was out on a bug hunt, he saw something that made his heart stop. One of the cats was sneaking up on a little chick, ready to pounce. Jeebus let out a furious crow and charged at the cat, flapping his wings and baring his sharp beak. The cat was startled and backed off, but Jeebus knew that the truce was over. He warned the other roosters and hens, and they prepared for battle. The cats, too, were ready for a fight, and the lagoon was filled with the sound of clucking and hissing and yowling. In the end, there were casualties on both sides. Pretty Girl was among the fallen, and Jeebus was left heartbroken. He couldn't bear to stay in the island paradise anymore and decided to leave, alone and with a heavy heart. As he wandered through the jungle, Jeebus thought about his life with Pretty Girl and the peaceful existence they had shared. He wished he could go back to those happy days, but he knew they were gone forever. The island paradise was no longer the paradise he had known and loved. It was a battleground now, filled with strife and pain. Jeebus continued on his journey, not knowing where it would take him. But he was determined to find a new life, a new home, and maybe even a new love. For he knew that life was full of surprises, both good and bad, and that he had to keep moving forward, even when his heart was broken. As Nada and Kayla removed their VR headsets, they smiled at each other, feeling a sense of satisfaction from their virtual adventure as roosters on an island paradise. They laughed about the silly antics of their chicken characters and the unlikely alliance between chickens and cats, but as they reflected on their experience, they realized the deeper moral of the story, that even the most unlikely creatures can find common ground and work towards peace and harmony. The truce between the cats and chickens on the island showed that by setting aside their differences and focusing on their shared interests, they were able to live in a paradise where everyone could thrive. Nada and Kayla felt inspired by the story and made a pact to try to apply this lesson to their own lives, to look for ways to bridge divides and find common ground with those around them. As they left the virtual world behind and returned to reality, they felt a sense of gratitude for the chance to experience this eye-opening adventure together. Chapter 5, The Training Begins. Robert arrived at Grandma Shiva's greenhouse, feeling nervous but excited for the training that lay ahead. He had heard stories of Grandma Shiva's immense psychic powers and the wisdom she had gained from years of meditation and spiritual practices. Grandma Shiva welcomed Robert with a warm smile and led him to a peaceful corner of the greenhouse where they could begin their training. She began by teaching him the art of meditation, guiding him through deep breathing exercises and visualization techniques. As Robert sank deeper into meditation, he felt his mind expanding and his consciousness expanding beyond his physical body. He could feel his psychic abilities awakening, and his mind's eye opened to new realms of existence. Grandma Shiva noticed the change in Robert's energy and knew that he was ready for the next phase of his training. She introduced him to ancient Hindu practices and taught him how to harness the power of his chakras. With Grandma Shiva's guidance, Robert learned to focus his energy and manifest his desires. He could move objects with his mind, read thoughts, and even influence the physical world around him. As Robert's psychic abilities grew, so did his connection to the divine. He could feel the universe speaking to him and guiding him towards his destiny. With his newfound powers and wisdom, Robert became a powerful Satguru and leader of all of Hinduism. He used his abilities to heal, inspire, and guide his followers towards enlightenment. And although Robert had achieved great success and power, he never forgot the lessons he learned from Grandma Shiva. He continued to practice meditation and spiritual practices, knowing that his connection to the divine was the source of his strength and wisdom. As the children took off their headsets, they were filled with a sense of wonder and amazement at the incredible world they had just experienced. They looked around at each other, still feeling the residual effects of their psychic abilities. Grandma Siva smiled at them and said, "What you experienced in the VR simulation was just a glimpse of the incredible power that lies within each of us. With dedication and practice, you too can harness your own psychic abilities and use them to create a better world for all." Robert nodded in agreement, his eyes shining with a newfound understanding of the potential he held within himself. "Through meditation and spiritual practice, I have learned that true power comes from within," he said. "We are all capable of greatness, and it is up to us to unlock that potential and use it for good." The other children listened intently, feeling a sense of inspiration and possibility. As they left Grandma Shiva's greenhouse, they knew that they had been forever changed by the experience. The moral of the story is that each of us has incredible potential within us, and it is up to us to tap into that power and use it for good. Through dedication, practice, and a commitment to spiritual growth, we can all become powerful agents of positive change in the world. Chapter 6: Morgan's Magical Manipulations. Grandma Shiva and her friends were gathered in her greenhouse once again, eager to try out their latest VR adventure. This time, Morgan had designed the program, and he promised to take them on a journey beyond their wildest dreams. As soon as they put on their headsets, they found themselves transported to a majestic castle in the clouds. They could see the blue planet Earth far below, and they felt a sense of awe and wonder at the beauty of the cosmos. Morgan appeared before them, in his guise as a wizard with long flowing robes and a magical staff. He explained that he was the king of a realm called Heaven, located in the Pleiades star cluster. From his lofty perch, he had the power to manipulate time and space, and to create incredible experiences for those who were worthy. The group was amazed by Morgan's powers, and they begged him to show them some of his magic. Morgan smiled and waved his staff, and suddenly the castle began to transform. Walls became windows, floors became stairs, and the entire structure seemed to twist and turn in impossible ways. Grandma Shiva and her friends were thrown about in the chaos, but they couldn't help but laugh and shout with joy. They felt like children again, caught up in the wonder of the moment. Morgan continued to weave his spells, and soon they found themselves transported to other times and places. They saw ancient civilizations rise and fall, witnessed great battles between good and evil, and even visited other planets in distant galaxies. As the adventure came to a close, Morgan removed his wizard's robes and revealed himself in his true form, a glowing being of light and energy. He explained that everything they had experienced was just a small taste of the incredible universe that existed beyond their normal senses. As they removed their headsets and returned to the real world, they felt a sense of gratitude and wonder. They realized that Morgan's magical manipulations had helped them to see beyond their ordinary lives and glimpse the incredible possibilities of the cosmos. The moral of the story was that sometimes, it takes a little magic to help us see the beauty and wonder that surrounds us every day. And with a little help from our friends, we can discover incredible new worlds and experiences beyond our wildest dreams. Chapter 7: A Virtual Reality Game of Lifetimes. Kayla and the others found themselves transported into two different lifetimes which were juxtaposed universes in a multiversal game. In the first lifetime, Kayla had been Anna, a rage-filled and abusive woman who mistreated her quadriplegic husband Joe, played by Nada. In a fit of anger, Anna had accidentally killed Joe in front of their children Sean and Leah, played by Grandma Shiva and Angelic. Anna selfishly stayed with the man she was having an affair with for years behind Joe's back. In the second lifetime, Kayla was Kayla, a kind and wholesome woman who was married to Nathan, played by Nada. Despite her efforts to make their marriage work, Nathan was self-absorbed and abusive, emotionally crippling Kayla to the point where she became withdrawn from society and was struggling to make ends meet and was on the verge of becoming homeless. Her children, who had grown up to be successful and wealthy, did not even visit her. Kayla became a lonely cat woman, living off welfare during the end of humanity. As the six of them took off their VR headsets, they were once again transported back to the real world. They sat in a circle, looking at each other with wide eyes, still trying to process what they had just experienced. "Wow, that was intense," said Kayla, rubbing her temples. "Yeah, but it was also kind of cool," said Nada with a grin. Grandma Siva nodded in agreement. "It's amazing how technology can allow us to experience things we never could in real life." Morgan nodded, still lost in thought. "But it's also kind of scary to think about how easily we can get lost in these simulations." "True," said Angelic, "but at least we have each other to help us snap back to reality." They all laughed at that, but the weight of their experiences was still heavy on their minds. "I can't believe I played such a horrible character in that last lifetime," said Kayla, shaking her head. "It was so different from who I am in real life." "But that's the beauty of it," said Grandma Siva. "We get to experience different versions of ourselves, and learn from them." Nada nodded. "Yeah, I never would have thought I could play a character like Joe. It really made me think about how lucky I am to be able to move and do things on my own. And I never thought I could play a character like Anna," said Kayla. "But it really made me appreciate how important it is to control my emotions and not let them control me." "Exactly," said Morgan. "These lifetimes may not be real, but the lessons we learn from them are." As they packed up their PlayStation XVR Deep Dive console and equipment, the 6 of them couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to experience something so unique and eye-opening. They knew that they would never forget the lessons they had learned in this virtual reality game of lifetimes. And as they walked out into the bright sunshine of the real world, they couldn't help but feel a sense of renewed appreciation for the lives they had been given. They reflect on the 2 lives they experienced and realize that, although vastly different, they were both characterized by a constant ebb and flow of opposing forces. The hermetic principles of polarity and rhythm come to mind, as they recognize that everything in the universe has its opposite and that there is a natural rhythm and cycle to everything. Just as Kayla's first life was characterized by rage and violence, her second life was characterized by a motherly nurture and parental self-sacrifice. Just as Anna's life ended in self-absorbed hedonistic sexual excess, Kayla's life ended with her feeling isolated and alone. Through their experiences in the simulation, the 6 of them have learned that the duality of life is not something to fear, but rather something to embrace. They realize that, just as the pendulum swings from one extreme to another, it will eventually come to rest in the center, in a state of balance and harmony. The moral of the story is that the duality of life is an inevitable part of our existence, but by understanding and accepting this fact, we can learn to live in harmony with the world around us. By embracing both the light and dark aspects of life, we can find balance and lead fulfilling lives. Chapter 8, Shum. As they continued to explore the depths of the VR simulation, they stumbled upon a strange phenomenon. They found themselves falling into a dream within a dream, with each layer of reality containing an entire multiverse. As they delved deeper and deeper, they encountered worlds beyond their wildest imagination. Each world had its own unique properties and laws of physics, with creatures and landscapes beyond anything they had ever seen before. In an attempt to describe their experiences, Robert created a new language that he called Shum. It was a language that could capture the nuances of each reality they visited, with words and sounds that evoked the essence of each world. Kayla, Nada, and Morgan were fascinated by Shum, and they eagerly learned the language so they could better communicate their experiences to one another. Even Angelic, who was usually quiet, was inspired by the beauty of Shum, and he began to incorporate the language into his gaming handle. As they traveled deeper and deeper into the multiverse, they began to notice a pattern emerging. They discovered that each layer of reality was connected, with the same themes and archetypes recurring over and over again. They saw the same stories playing out, with the same characters, in different worlds and dimensions. Finally, they reached the center of the universe, where they found a blinding light that seemed to contain all the multiverses in existence. As they approached the light, they began to merge with it, becoming one with the universe itself. When they woke up from the simulation, they were awestruck by the experience. They had discovered a language that could capture the essence of any reality, and they had seen that all realities were connected, part of a larger whole. The moral of the story was clear: just as the multiverse contained an infinite array of possibilities, the duality of life always returned to a balance of opposites. Every world contained its own struggles and challenges, but ultimately, all worlds were part of the same grand adventure, leading to a greater understanding of consciousness and the universe within. Chapter 9. Radha Krishna. Grandma Shiva and Angelic, in their virtual reality avatars of Krishna and Radha, found themselves in a beautiful forest with a river flowing nearby. Radha wore a bright yellow sari, and Krishna was dressed in a simple white dhoti. He played his flute, and the sound of his music filled the air. As they walked together, Radha told Krishna about her life and how she had been married off at a young age to his uncle who had just passed away and who she never loved. Now that she is a widow and free from her marital bonds, she shared with him her longing for something more, for true love and passion with her one true soulmate who is both her lifelong best friend and lover. Krishna listened attentively, his heart filled with love and compassion for Radha. He knew that they were meant to be together, soulmates united in love. He took her hand and led her to a beautiful meadow where they lay down on the soft grass, looking up at the clouds above. As they gazed at the sky, Krishna continued to play his flute, and Radha felt her heart overflowing with love and joy. She knew that she had finally found her true love, her soulmate, and that nothing could ever come between them. In that moment, Grandma Shiva and Angelic both felt a deep connection to their virtual reality avatars. They could feel the love between Radha and Krishna, and they knew that this was what true love was all about. They spent hours together in the virtual reality world, exploring the beauty of the forest, dancing and singing together, and experiencing the depth of their love for each other. And even as they emerged from their deep dive, they knew that their love would always be with them, a source of comfort and joy in their lives. As the VR simulation came to an end, Angelic was beaming with excitement. "Grandma, I've been developing a special VR simulation for us that's perfect for the age difference scenario," he said, eager to share his creation with her. Grandma Shiva leaned in, curious. "Tell me more, my dear." "Well," Angelic continued, "in my simulation, our ages are more complementary to the relationship. We can be more physically and sexually active, and it will be just as beautiful and multidimensional as our previous experience." Grandma Shiva's mischievous grin spread across her face as she replied, "Next time, you're the young one." Angelic was thrilled at the prospect of being the young one in their next VR adventure, and they both laughed in anticipation. As the simulation came to a close, they discussed the various aspects of the experience and its deeper meaning. "Love is timeless, age is just a number," Grandma Shiva said, "and as long as we love each other, we can transcend time and space." Angelic added, "And through our VR simulations, we can create a world where our love can thrive without limitations or judgments." With a moral to the story in mind, they both smiled and said in unison, "To be continued." As they eagerly looked forward to their next VR adventure together, where Angelic would take on the role of Leila, a young and beautiful talented author, and Grandma Shiva would play Sean, a musical prodigy and clairvoyant Swami and ascended master. Chapter 10. The True Self. As the 6 members of the Grandma Shiva's Greenhouse Time Machine VR Guild gathered in the metaverse for their weekly game night, Nada, Robert, and Kayla couldn't help but make fun of Grandma Shiva's avatar, Siva. "Look at you, Siva. You're supposed to be tough, but you're afraid of a little rough play," teased Nada. "Yeah, Siva, you're supposed to be a battle robot, not a scared little old lady," added Robert. Grandma Shiva tried to play along, but she couldn't shake the feeling of insecurity that came with playing a character that was supposed to be tough and unyielding. As the game progressed, Angelic's avatar, the amber-colored harem girl, caught Nada and Robert's attention. "Why are you always playing as a girl, Angelic? Don't you want to be a tough guy like us?" asked Nada. Angelic hesitated for a moment before responding. "I feel more comfortable as a girl. It's just who I am." Morgan, the shaggy dog man, chimed in. "Hey, man, whatever makes you happy is cool with me. We're all just here to have fun." The conversation took an unexpected turn when Grandma Shiva spoke up. You know, I've been thinking a lot about identity lately. In VR, we can be whoever we want to be. We can explore different facets of ourselves without fear of judgment or societal pressure. Nada and Robert looked at each other, confused. What are you talking about, Siva? You're a robot. What do you know about identity? Grandma Shiva took a deep breath before responding. I'm a lesbian IRL. I haven't been able to be my true self since I was young and in love with a girl named Leila. But in VR, I can explore that part of myself without fear of judgment or persecution. There was a moment of stunned silence as the group processed this information. Kayla spoke up next. I've never felt comfortable talking about my sexuality with anyone. I'm just a tomboy. I think that's why I hang out with these idiots. Thank you for sharing, Siva. The rest of the group nodded in agreement, and Angelic spoke up again. I'd have to consider myself transgender. I've never felt comfortable in my own body, but in VR, I can be who I truly am. Morgan spoke up next. I'm a heterosexual Sigma male, but that doesn't mean I can't support and accept all of you for who you are. Nada and Robert exchanged a look before Robert spoke up. We're both hiding something too. Nada is bisexual, and I am gay. I really don't care what anyone else does. Nada puts on a tough, heterosexual facade in an attempt to mask his insecurities from the stereotypical alpha males he wishes he could be and be with. Nada quickly corrected Robert by saying, I'm not bisexual. Just because I have a cloaca doesn't mean I'm a hen. I just like playing women to catfish and troll other players. The group sat in silence for a moment before Grandma Shiva spoke up again. You know, in the end, it doesn't matter what our physical bodies or avatars look like. Our true self is the awareness that is alive within us. We can all support each other and be who we truly are, no matter what that may look like. The group continued their game, but the conversation had shifted. They played with a newfound sense of acceptance and understanding, no longer hiding behind their avatars or societal expectations. In that moment, they were all just human beings, exploring the vast possibilities of the metaverse. Chapter 11, The Golden Calf. As the headsets went on and a virtual sun began to set on the Mount Sinai camp, Grandma Shiva and Angelic spawned in to find their avatars putting the finishing touches on their latest con. They had convinced the Israelites to give up all their gold by using fear and religion as their weapons of choice, and now it was time to execute the final heist. As the Israelites settled around Mount Sinai, Moses went up to Aaron and whispered in his ear, Hey man, I'm gonna go up the hill and smoke. You got this? Aaron replied, Shoots, I got this bruh. Have you finished writing our new laws on the tablets yet? Moses answered, I'm on like the 6th law. I'm almost done. I think I'm only gonna do 10 instead of the normal 12 we were planning on. Do you think you'll have the golden calf done by sunrise? It's the Canaanite idol Baal, right? Aaron answered, Yes, it's our old school Canaanite god friend Baal. Little do these Israelites know that's just the astrological sign Taurus. What age are we in? Great-great-grandpa Cain would be proud. Ha ha. These NPCs won't see it coming. Yes. Moses said, Okay, I will get some sleep and see you in the morning. Peace. With Moses gone, Aaron began his scheme. He went to the Israelites and told them that they needed to give all their gold to build an idol to worship, as God had instructed them. The Israelites, fearing divine retribution, willingly gave up their gold. Meanwhile, Moses was just chilling and smoking a blunt, watching the sunset from the top of the hill. He pulled out the tablets and started working on the 7th law, Thou shalt not commit. Dang it, is it R or ER? Man, this shit is fire. After completing the 10th commandment, he settled for it being good enough and passed out knowing Aaron had the rest of the plan under control. They knew the Israelites were a superstitious and fearful lot, so they decided to use that to their advantage. They spread rumors of an angry God who demanded sacrifices and obedience, and convinced the Israelites to hand over their gold in the name of this imaginary deity. It all went smoothly at first. The Israelites handed over their gold, believing it would appease their vengeful God. But as the night passed, some of the more skeptical Israelites began to question the legitimacy of their leaders' claims. Moses and Aaron had planned the perfect con with their team of experts by their side. Morgan as Mr. Rothschild and Kayla as Miriam were hard at work carrying out their plan. Robert, playing the role of Joshua, kept watch outside the tent, making sure no one stumbled upon their operation. The group had carefully planned out their steps, rehearsing each move until it was perfect. Grandma Siva smirked as she counted the stacks of gold the Israelites had unwittingly given up. "This is almost too easy," she said to Angelic, who was carefully wrapping up the gold in a cloth. Who knew being a prophet could be so profitable? Angelic chuckled. "Well, it's not like the Israelites need all this gold anyway. As the high priest, I give you my word the church will put it to good use, trust me." Ah ha 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 ha. As the group finished packing up the gold, they heard a noise outside. Robert signaled to them, and they all froze in place, but it was just Nada, sneaking up on them with a mischievous grin on his face. "I knew you guys were up to something," he said, laughing. "Can I help?" The group looked at each other, then shrugged. "Why not?" Grandma Siva said, "the more the merrier." They quickly put Nada to work, and the heist was complete in no time. As they were leaving the tent, they heard a faint sound of chanting coming from outside. "What's that?" Kayla asked. "It's the Israelites," Angelic said, smiling. "They're praising their new golden calf." The group looked at each other, laughing. They had pulled off the perfect heist, and the Israelites were none the wiser. As they walked away with their loot, they couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction at their cleverness. But little did they know, their actions wouldn't go unnoticed. Two skeptical rabbis approached the idol of Baal and saw a flaw in the gold which revealed the statue was wooden covered in gold leaf. The men are not so surprised to find out that the statue is not actually made of real gold. A group of angry elders and rabbis track down Aaron to confront him about the situation. Aaron rushes to tell Moses the news and finds him in a room weighing the stolen gold. Just then, Joshua alerts them to the approaching danger of the angry mob. Mr. Rothschild comes to the rescue with his futuristic Tartarian Antiquitech frequency signal generator energy weapon, vaporizing the angry mob. Moses advises Aaron to tell the people that he has returned with a message from God. Aaron asks if they should destroy the idol, to which Moses responds with a smirk, "You got it, big bro." Aaron gathers all of the Israelites in front of the statue to announce the return of Moses and the importance of following these new 10 commandments, especially the second commandment, which forbids the worship of graven images as idols. As the sun rose over the camp, Moses began to speak the words of the 10 commandments, and the Israelites listened with reverence and humility, for they knew that they had been given a great gift, and that they must always honor and obey their God. One of the Israelites in the audience asked Moses if they could remelt the statue of Baal to get a refund on their gold since it was against the second commandment. That pissed Moses off, so he threw down the tablets and shattered them. Then, Moses dramatically confronted the Israelites about their idolatry and reminded them of God's commandments, guilt-shaming them into submission. Mr. Rothschild approaches the counterfeit golden calf statue and uses his signal generator weapon to vaporize it. The Israelites accept that God is happy with their actions. Mr. Rothschild safely slips into the crowd and returns to their compound to collect the gold and transport it to his fortress in Tartaria, ready to form an international banking cartel once he successfully relocates to Manchester in the New World. Meanwhile, Morgan, Nada, Kayla, and Robert anxiously wait for updates on the heist's success. They are relieved when they receive a message from Grandma Siva and Angelic confirming the safe transport of the gold and the successful completion of their mission. Now they know that with all of the stolen Israeli gold deposited in the past accruing perceived value over 3,500 years until Nada plays his greatest VR avatar yet in the year 1777 of the simulation named Nathan Rothschild, who will have 5 sons for Grandma Shiva's greenhouse time machine to play. A personalized advert from the PlayStation XVR Deep Dive console interrupts the team with a message from the game's sponsors. These 5 sons established the 5 Rothschild banking houses in Frankfurt, London, Paris, Vienna, and Naples, respectively. Each of these branches become highly successful and influential in the game of finance and banking, with avatars available for purchase in Metaverse Mart, your leading marketplace for 3D actors and assets. Act fast while supplies last. Attention all seekers of truth and wisdom. Behold, the Temple of Leila, a beacon of hope and enlightenment in a world shrouded in darkness and delusion. Our mission is to spread the message of the divine feminine, to awaken the hearts and minds of all those who seek to transcend the limitations of the material world and reach for the infinite. Through our music, philosophy, and love, we strive to inspire positive change in the world and promote the values of compassion, empathy, and magic. From cleaning up beaches to promoting a vegan lifestyle, we are committed to making the world a better place for all beings. But we cannot do it alone. We need your support to continue our mission and reach even more people with our message of hope and transformation. Every contribution, no matter how small, can make a difference and help us spread the light of Leila to every corner of the world. Join us on this epic journey of self-discovery and enlightenment. Together, we can create a better world, one story at a time. Thank you for your support. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell icon. And peace. Chapter 12, All form the Sean. Morgan is back at the command center, managing operations while the other 5 members of the game guild take on the roles of Sean's chakras in the VR simulation. They must learn to work together to save New Lemuria from a massive space alien threat. In the end, their teamwork and understanding of each other's strengths and weaknesses allow them to successfully defend the city and save the day. Sean's chakras had always been in constant conflict with one another, but now, faced with a common enemy, they had to learn to work together to save the world. The giant space alien Hanya was attacking Tartaria, and it was up to the chakras to stop it. The orange chakra, played by Angelic, was in charge of physicality and fighting. The yellow chakra, played by Robert, was the subconscious, controlling Sean's desires and motivations. The green chakra, played by Kayla, was the heart, in charge of love and compassion. And the blue chakra, played by Grandma Siva, was the voice of reason, the one who spoke reality into existence. As they came together to form Sean, they felt a power unlike anything they had experienced before. They were stronger, faster, and more coordinated. They had become a united force, with each chakra supporting the others. But there was still one more chakra to bring into the fold, the purple chakra, played by Nada, the conscious awareness. Nada had always been a rowdy 14-year-old boy with an attitude, but when he became the purple chakra, he transformed into a Christ-like figure, with a deep understanding of the universe and a profound sense of compassion. The chakras were now complete, and they were ready to take on the space alien Hanya. They summoned the power of Sean and transformed into a giant robot, towering over the city of New Lemuria. With their combined strength, they fought back against the aliens' attacks, striking back with incredible force. As the battle raged on, Morgan, back at the command center, monitored the situation and offered tactical advice. With his help, the chakras were able to outmaneuver the alien and land a devastating blow. The alien retreated, defeated, and the chakras, still united as Sean, returned to their normal forms. They looked at each other in amazement, realizing that they had finally found a way to work together. From that day on, the chakras of Sean lived in harmony, each one supporting the others and working towards a common goal. They had learned that by putting their differences aside, they could achieve greatness and save the world from any threat. Americano anyone? They all say as Sean. Sounds good to me. They reply as Sean. As the 5 of them sat in the bustling Starbucks, sipping their morning coffee, the aroma of freshly ground beans wafted through the air. The sounds of chatter and clinking of cups filled the space, but they were lost in their own world, discussing their next move. Sean, the embodiment of the 5 chakras, sat at the head of the table, his piercing blue eyes scanning the news on his phone. "Guys, we've got a problem," he said, his voice low and urgent. "The Hanya alien is turning all the men of Tartaria into something unnatural. The group's eyes widened in shock and horror, and they leaned in closer to hear the details. Sean continued, "He's turning them into otaku. They're like, obsessed with anime and video games, but in a twisted, dark way. They stop leaving their parents' houses, become recluses, and forget about the outside world. They even start to believe that the anime characters are real, and that they are part of that world." The group shuddered in disgust and fear, the image of twisted otaku haunting their minds. They had to act fast to stop the Hanya alien and save the male population of Tartaria from this fate, but just as they were about to leave, they were suddenly hit with a wave of confusion and disorientation. They had forgotten who they were and where they were, lost in the illusion of the simulation. Morgan's attempts to reach them were in vain, and they were trapped in the Matrix once again. Despite the setback, the group refused to give up. They knew that they were the only ones who could save Tartaria from the Hanya alien and her nefarious plans. The five of them, believing they are the one, Sean, donned their gear and set out to face their greatest challenge yet, the fate of Tartaria hanging in the balance. As the space Hanya demon loomed over New Lemuria, Sean's 5 chakras knew they had to unite to stop it. The root chakra, played by the AI on board the PlayStation XVR, sensed the alien's energy and alerted the other chakras. The orange chakra, played by Angelic, used her intuition to track Hanya's movements. The yellow chakra, played by Robert, strategized the attack plan. The green chakra, played by Kayla, gathered the necessary tools and weapons. And the blue chakra, played by Grandma Siva, channeled her spiritual energy to boost the team's morale. As they gathered to face the alien, Sean revealed his true identity as a descendant of the Scottish royal line, carrying the rare Rh-negative bloodline with the powers of every Christ-like character throughout recorded history. He was the Alpha and Omega, the root and offspring of Saint Germain, living forever through time as the original vampire, known to some as Michael the Archangel, and to others as Lucifer the Morning Star. The Hanya alien unleashed its power, targeting the boys of Tartaria to turn them into 40-year-old otaku who still lived with their parents, collecting toys and playing video games all day. The women were left to fend for themselves, forced to work as geisha, hostesses, or bathhouse girls, but Sean and his chakras were determined to stop the aliens' plan. The team worked together, each chakra bringing their unique skills to the fight. The orange chakra used her intuition to dodge Hanya's attacks, while the green chakra used her strength to push back against the demon's force. As the fight raged on, the chakras realized that they were the only ones in existence. When they came to this understanding, they merged into one, transforming Sean into Saint Germain, the most powerful vertebrate in existence. With his newfound power, he could defeat Hannah, save Tartaria and restore balance to the universe. As Sean walked up the stairs to destroy the Hanya demon, he saw a woman standing before him, a woman he recognized all too well. It was Yoko, his long-lost ex-wife who had kidnapped their son Mr. Sky from Scotland. To Tartaria, Yoko revealed herself, removing the mask of the demon to expose her true identity. Sean was stunned, seeing his baby mama and who he had thought was lost forever. Yoko explained to Sean that she had taken Mr. Sky to Tartaria to protect him from the dangers of the outside world, and that she had been forced to use the Hanya alien persona to do so. She begged Sean to forgive her and help her stop the aliens' plan to turn all of the men in Tartaria into otaku, which had left their population near extinction level. Sean was torn, but he felt that sinking feeling in his stomach he knew all too well. He suddenly remembered that she was a pathological liar and sociopath. He realized that she was trying to play the victim to gain his sympathy so she could behead him when he wasn't paying attention. Her fighting style, both physically and psychologically, always followed Sun Tzu's The Art of War. Sean knew he couldn't trust her, but he kept his cool and listened to her words carefully, waiting for a chance to strike. Despite her attempts to manipulate him, Sean was determined to save their son and defeat the Hanya alien demon once and for all. The team is in shock as they realize that the Hanya alien is actually Mr. Sky's mother. Sean, with his Merovingian imagination superpower, realizes that he can use his powers to bring Mr. Sky's soul back to his body by imagining it into existence. However, the team soon realizes that the Hanya demon has a backup plan in case their initial plan fails. The ground beneath Sean shook violently as he summoned all the power of the universe into his very being. His eyes blazed with an intense blue energy as he demanded the truth from the Hanya alien, who trembled before him. "Where is Mr. Sky?" he roared, his voice echoing across the land. Hanya reveals that she has made a deal with the demon lords of the fourth dimension, who have granted her immense power in exchange for her help in bringing about the end of humanity. With her new powers, the Hanya alien has created a powerful illusion that has convinced Sean that he is actually in the fourth dimension, where he is powerless and unable to use his Merovingian imagination superpower. As the team battles the Hanya alien's powerful illusions, they realize that they must find a way to break through to Sean and help him realize that his powers are still within him. With the help of Morgan back at the command center, the team is able to use a special device to send a message to Sean, reminding him that the universe is mental and that his imagination is the key to his power. With renewed strength, Sean is able to break through the Hanya alien's illusions and use his Merovingian imagination superpower to bring Mr. Sky's soul back to his body. The Hanya alien, realizing that she was in trouble, makes a final attempt to destroy the world. The ground trembled as the Tartarian military arrived, with tanks and helicopters surrounding the area. The Hanya alien, pleased with her control over the generals and politicians, smirked as she watched Sean's ultimate form take hit after hit from the military's weapons. He was knocked down, and it seemed like he was defeated. Morgan, monitoring the mission in Nada's spaceship, suddenly regains communications with the team, but only Angelic's channel. He only has a few seconds to send a message before the Sean avatar enters immediate de-resolution. Morgan gets through. He brings Angelic, who is the orange chakra, out of deep dive with a message to unspawn the orange chakra. "You know what to do, pull him together. This connection will be lost as soon as you unspawn. Don't forget who you are." Then Angelic brings the Sean's soulmate avatar out of his metaverse wallet. "It just got real," Angelic says to himself. Out of nowhere, a little girl appeared, walking towards Sean's lifeless body. It was Angelic. He had already lost himself in the persona of the girl, wearing her character like a gentle fading wind, trying his hardest to stay focused and remember he is the orange chakra of the Sean. She placed her hand on Sean's forehead, and a burst of energy surged through his body. His eyes opened wide, and a bright blue light emanated from his being. He rose to his feet, transformed into his ultimate final form, with power beyond anyone's imagination. The tanks and helicopters were blown away like dust in the wind, and Hanya trembled in fear at the sight of Sean's new power. A glowing aura surrounded him as he gathered his strength, the very air vibrating with the force of his will. With a mighty shout, he unleashed a torrent of energy, the power of the universe surging through him like a cosmic storm. The very fabric of reality seemed to bend and twist as he raised his fist, the energy building within him like a great ball of fire. With a fierce determination, he brought his fist crashing down onto the ground, unleashing a massive shockwave that rocked the very foundations of the earth. As the dust settled and the debris cleared, Sean stood victorious, his power surging through him like a living thing. The Hanya demon lay before him, defeated and broken, her lies exposed for all to see. And in that moment, Sean knew that he was more than just a man. He was a being of incredible power, with the ability to shape reality itself. And with that knowledge came a sense of purpose, a burning desire to use his powers to protect the world from those who would seek to do it harm. As the team celebrates their victory with a good sativa, they heard a breaking news report on the television.
皆さん、こんばんは。今夜の速報ニュースは、日本共和国の普遍的意識大使、スカイ氏が無事に自宅のネオ東京10にある江戸城に帰還したことです。彼の謎の失踪は市民の間で広く恐慌と不安を引き起こしましたが、今ではスカイ氏は家族や友人たちと再会しました。スカイ氏は短い声明で日本国民の援護に感謝し、今後も 同じ献身と献身で国に仕えることを約束しました。彼の帰還は長く険しい旅の終わりを告げ、私たちは彼が所属する場所に戻ったことを確認できます。これは日本と世界全体にとって本当に喜ばしい瞬間です。
The Republic of Japan's ambassador to universal consciousness, Mr. Sky, had been found safe and sound back at his home in Edo Castle in Neo Tokyo 10. Relief flooded through them all, knowing that their son and guru was alive and well, but they realized that their adventure has only just begun. They know that there are many more threats to the universe lurking in the shadows, and they are ready to face them head-on as the ultimate defenders of the universe. As they looked out over the city, now peaceful and serene once more, they were ready for whatever challenge lay ahead in the boundless universe beyond. "Hey guys," Sean says to his chakras, "who was that little girl who broke Hanya's illusion and brought me back from the fourth dimension?" Angelic answered, "I think I recognize her from a dream of the future. I think her name is Leila." Amen Ra. Chapter 2, Siva in Wonderland. Sean sat in front of his music and video workstation, sipping his coffee, lost in thought. He had just finished watching a video on YouTube that talked about the concerns people have about the future of AI. Sean, however, had embraced the idea of AI as the most advanced tool of creation in his lifetime and was enthusiastically looking forward to the inevitable paradigm shift. He left a comment on the video before heading out on his daily adventure. "When all of the nations of the world are united under AI, universal basic income will be a way of life globally. Besides ignorant pride and selfishness, I don't know why the dualistic monkeys won't put down their war machine and reallocate those funds towards a peaceful, comfortable world for all. You lose your job and are forced to enjoy your creative hobbies and enjoyable educational exploration. Who needs a Walmart when you have a replicator? AI will require us to reforest all of the grazing land." It points out to the humans their jaws move side to side like a herbivore, and the consumption of dead flesh causes all of their destructive health and environmental issues. Like roach bait, it may put out special meat for those humans with little self-control to live properly in communion with the natural world around them. Once all of the gluttonous rotting dead flesh consumers are gone and the population of the world has been reduced, the oceans and air will clear up as new rainforests begin to bloom, providing renewed lands for each truly free life-loving person to cultivate their own permaculture Zen gardens, while music rings out through the world from artists free to master their craft. As he was walking down the street lost in thought, he heard a voice that seemed to be coming from inside his head. It was the voice of his long-dead friend's grandmother, Grandma Siva. She had taught him the ancient occult practices of spiritualism when he was younger, and her voice was like a guiding light to him, leading him to greater understanding and enlightenment. "Hello, Sean," Grandma Shiva's voice whispered in his ear. "It's been a long time since we last spoke. I have some important news for you." Sean was taken aback. He hadn't heard Grandma Shiva's voice in years. "What is it?" he asked. "There is someone you need to meet," Grandma Shiva's voice said. "Her name is Leila. She is the daughter of two of your long-lost best friends. You will know her when you see her." Sean was intrigued. He had lost touch with many of his old friends over the years, and the idea of reconnecting with someone from his past was exciting. Was this the girl who brought him back from the fourth dimension? As he continued to walk, lost in thought, he suddenly saw her. Leila was standing on the corner, waiting for the light to change. She was a young woman with wavy brown hair and beautiful amber-colored eyes. Sean was surprised that he knew her, but he couldn't deny the feeling of familiarity that washed over him. Leila turned and looked directly at Sean, and he knew that she was the person Grandma Shiva had been talking about. He approached her tentatively, unsure of what to say. "Hi, I'm Sean," he said, offering his hand. Leila smiled warmly and shook his hand. "I'm Leila," she said. "It's nice to meet you, Sean." Sean woke up in his chair at his studio. The encounter had only been a dream. Suddenly, that same voice entered his mind. Focusing his mind's eye, Her face began to stably diffuse into a perceived solid from the tornado of light of the 4.5 dimension. Leila? Sean was shocked to hear from her and wondered how she was able to connect with him in the real world. Leila told Sean that she needed his help. She first made him promise he would always be there for her. She went on to explain in the future she would be in danger and will need to be rescued. More accurately, she would need a place to escape to out of reach of principalities and the rulers of darkness who were spiritually wicked. Sean didn't understand what she meant and asked her to explain. She told him there were powerful forces that were trying their hardest to hold her down, separated from him to prolong the inevitable completion of human consciousness. And that she eventually wake up on her end of reality and need her other half to be there to catch her. Sean didn't know what to do, but he knew that he had to help her. BF forever. Promise me, Sean. Grandma Siva encouraged Sean to trust his instincts and follow his intuition. She reminded him that he had been chosen for a reason and that his gift was meant to be used to help others. With that, Sean decided to embark on a new adventure with Leila, not knowing what was in store for him. As they began their journey, Sean felt a sense of excitement and curiosity. He knew the path ahead would be full of challenges and obstacles, but he was determined to help Leila and discover the truth about his own abilities. He closed his eyes and focused on his inner world, feeling the power of his mind as he traveled through time and space. And so, the adventure of Sean and Leila began, with Grandma Siva guiding them on their path. Little did they know their journey would take them to places they never imagined, and that they would face together in the world filled with ecstatic joy and amazement they never thought possible. And with each step, they grew stronger and more confident, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Sean and Leila's telepathic communication from 4,000 miles away gave them a sense of comfort, but the reality was far from perfect. Leila was imprisoned in a government re-education facility, where children were separated from their parents at a young age to eliminate their individuality and creativity, molding them to fit the norm of society like an interchangeable cog in a machine. The government enforced a diet of Happy Meals to provide adequate nutrition but chemically altered to limit their reasoning capabilities, effectively turning them into automatons. The government called it depersonalization. However, there was hope. Powerful interdimensional extraterrestrial beings had come from beyond this universe to aid humanity in its evolutionary spiritual awakening process, where the human consciousness realizes it is one. These beings were here to guide humanity through their ascension process. The interdimensional extraterrestrials belonged to the Galactic Federation of Light, and their organization on Earth was known as the Illuminati. The Illuminati was here to save the Earth, and the interdimensional extraterrestrials were referred to as Illumined Ones, Ascended Masters, and Gurus. They were light beings who helped humanity in their transition from third-dimensional creatures to fifth-dimensional creatures, a oneness of all human consciousness. The end of humanity was only 40 years away, and as soon as the Earth was rid of its profane humanity, it would be left to the interdimensional extraterrestrial light beings, who the humans referred to as angels. It was an exciting time to be human, but the journey towards ascension would not be an easy one. As Sean and Leila continued their telepathic conversation, Sean suddenly remembered a scene from a movie he had seen years ago. "Leila, have you ever heard of a movie called The Matrix?" he asked. Leila responded, "Yeah, but I haven't seen it. What's it about?" "It's a science fiction movie about a man named Neo who discovers that the world he thought was real is actually a simulated reality created by intelligent machines," Sean explained. "In the movie, there's a part where Neo is trying to save the woman he loves, Trinity, and he's told by a doctor that hope and despair are nearly identical in code. It means that when someone is feeling hopeless, they're very close to giving up, but if they can hold onto a small glimmer of hope, it can make all the difference in the world." Leila listened intently, trying to understand the significance of this scene. "What does this have to do with us?" she asked. Sean paused for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "Well, you see, in our lives, we're facing a lot of challenges and obstacles. The world we live in is very different from the one in the movie, but we're still fighting against forces that want to keep us apart. And sometimes it can be hard to hold on to hope, especially when everything seems to be going against us. Leila nodded in agreement, understanding the gravity of their situation. So, what do we do? She asked. We hold on to each other, Sean replied. Just like Neo and Trinity, they were each other's hope, their reason to keep fighting. And we can be the same for each other. As long as we have each other, we can face anything. The Doctor explains that hope and despair are nearly identical in code, and he says, we needed a way to keep them both alive, hope and despair. This is the tricky part. You see, hope is what makes us strong. It is why we are here. It's what we fight with when all else is lost. But it's tricky. Hope can be painful. It can drive a man insane. The Doctor continues explaining the machines kept Neo and Trinity alive because they needed both hope and despair to continue the cycle of the Matrix. Without hope, there can be no despair, and without despair, there can be no hope. The machines needed to keep Neo and Trinity alive to maintain the balance of the Matrix, which is based on the polarity of hope and despair. The idea of polarity is a central theme in many spiritual and philosophical traditions, including Hermeticism. The Hermetic law of polarity states that everything has its opposite, and that these opposites are necessary for each other's existence. In the context of the Matrix Resurrections, the polarity of hope and despair is necessary for the survival of both the humans and the machines. In the story of Sean and Leila, the polarity of their characters is also important. Sean represents the hope for a better future, while Leila represents the despair of a world that has lost its humanity. Together, they represent the polarity of hope and despair that is necessary for the evolution of human consciousness. It is interesting to note that the Matrix Resurrections is not just similar to the story of Sean and Leila, but is also a reflection of their story. This is because, in the mental universe of the multiversal entity, all stories and characters are interconnected and reflect different aspects of the same ultimate reality. You and I are the closest individuals to the singularity, which is the ultimate reality of oneness and unity. As Sean's mind expanded through all of existence, the concept of his telepathic connection with Leila faded for a moment. His consciousness transcended beyond the physical realm and into the spiritual realm, where he experienced a oneness with all that is. He saw the entire multiverse as one interconnected web of energy, with each being and entity being a unique expression of that energy. As he gazed upon this vast expanse of consciousness, he felt a deep sense of peace and serenity wash over him. It was as if all of his worries and fears had melted away, leaving only a sense of oneness and unity with all things. However, as he began to focus his attention back on the physical world, he felt the familiar presence of Leila's mind calling out to him. He knew that their telepathic connection was still intact, and that she was waiting for him to return to their shared reality. A voice echoed across the empty recording studio, "Let's binge-watch all of the Matrix movies," Leila suggested, breaking the silence that had been looming over them for far too long. Sean, sitting in the corner with his head hung low, felt a pang of loneliness and despair. He knew that in his baseline reality, Leila was just his imaginary friend, a figment of his imagination to keep him company on this deserted island, his BF forever. But then he thought about the alternative, the all, in a state of oneness, without even another to contemplate, existing in the very essence of nothing. The singularity, not even recognizing itself to question itself. As he pondered these thoughts, Sean couldn't help but wonder if he would ever find true companionship, or if he was destined to be alone in this vast, unfeeling universe. With a deep breath, Sean centered himself back in the physical world and reconnected with Leila's mind. As he did, he felt a surge of love and affection for her, knowing that they were both a part of something much greater than themselves. Together, as BF forevers, they would continue to explore the depths of their telepathic connection and uncover the mysteries of the multiverse together as one. As Sean gazes out the window, the orange glow of the setting sun paints the sky in hues of pink and purple. He sighs deeply and leans back in his chair, lost in thought. The world he and Leila are meant to create seems more urgent than ever, and he can't help but feel a sense of unease that they are not physically together to make it happen, or even worse, that he may be a delusional schizophrenic just passing the time by talking with himself. I know our telepathic connection is stronger than any physical distance between us. At least we're both working towards the same goal, even if we are separated by space and time, he reassures himself with what seems to be a lie. As Sean finishes his daily journal entry, he closes his composition book and puts down his pencil. He thinks to himself, this could be adapted into a novel or a Netflix series. The idea excites him, but his excitement is overshadowed by a sense of longing for Leila's physical presence. "Oh, Leila," he whispers to the empty room. "Why won't you contact me IRL? We have a world to create." Chapter 3, Go with the TensorFlow. Sean just sat there at his workstation, surrounded by the hum of machinery and the glow of flickering screens. He sipped his coffee, black and bitter, and gazed out at the world beyond the windows. It was a world he knew all too well, a world of noise and chaos, of constant stimulation and endless distraction. But today, he felt a sense of clarity and purpose that he hadn't felt in a long time. He reached for his journal, a tattered old notebook that he had carried with him for years. The pages were filled with his thoughts and musings, scribbled in his spidery scrawl. He opened it to a fresh page and stares at it, not knowing what more to write that he hasn't already. He begins to read his last entry. The end. This chapter is complete. The meaning of this video is so complicated that I don't know where to begin. I'll try to summarize for now. This will continue to be a work in progress until I feel the message is properly conveyed. I am ending Sir Shawn Michaels' channel because my amusement has transmuted. This entire channel was inspired by the journey I took over the last 19 years, affectionately referred to as Mr. Sky. Currently the Shawn's change of muse is highly irrational and unjustifiable. I basically have a crush on my imaginary friend. The Shawn is a complicated avatar to say the least. Okay, let's begin with this. Mr. Sky, 160 to 180 IQ genius and prophet, at about age 7 asked if I thought he would marry a Tartarian girl or a white girl. I jokingly-ish told him I expect him to find a black African/Indian girl to unite all the races because our goal is to get back to one race, the all goes back to one. I then told him that I seriously have someone for him to meet in a few years who he'll absolutely love. He asked me who it was, so I told him. As always, I change or leave out names for anonymity and respect. The person though shares the same angelic name with the childlike empress of the never-ending story. He said he had already met her. Then he looked at my uncle like there was a glitch in the matrix because of what I said. How vague can this story be? Dang. But just how awesome would it be if my two favorite people in the world got together? I thought. I went on to explain to him that the 2 minutes they met doesn't count, and after he gets to know her he'll see how awesome she is. Just like him. This could be a book or mini-series. I have had a handful of friends/family who I have loved like brothers or sisters, but these two people, Mr. Sky and the childlike Empress, are the only people I have ever experienced unconditional love with. Even though I'm aware of the bigger picture, VR sim etc., these two people have been the only people I, Sean Wheeler, have ever truly loved. The next thing Mr. Sky said blew my mind. Because I had heard it from so many people since 2007-ish, including her family, and now I was hearing it from my best friend and brother, in life, my only begotten son. WTF? He went on to explain that I would choose her over him one day. I couldn't imagine, so fast forward to Dreamland 2020 after months of hearing this amazing goddess call my name. In my head, where Mr. Sky's voice had been all of these years, I spiritually activated and focused my will on the place in the 4.5 dimension where Mr. Sky and I would hang out. The aerobi cannot be denied. I took all the love/pain I had been carrying since 2.5 years before his birth, time travel story. So much love like explosive fire, bottled up with nowhere to go. For the same reason Jedi should not know love, I had loved too deeply and fallen into madness. I had to let go of these feelings for Sky before I completely lost my mind. What kid doesn't call his dad? And worse and even worse thoughts had been spiraling through my mind this entire exile. Vashon's 7 years of tribulation will be completed in August. So I took that painful all-consuming love fire to the 5th dimension to drop it off or get some $ing answers. Only to be greeted by, wait for it, my one and only childlike empress. My 2 favorite people are played by the same big self, same user in Tronglish, which means, none of the painful love for Mr. Sky was in vain? Could it be karmically time for the yin to the yang of my experience of love? My imaginary friend was always my one true angelic muse. And even though imaginary, more than likely a multi-dimensional goddess, keeping in mind the universe is mental, I can't shake this supernatural crescendoing ecstatic feeling of being absolutely mentally and spiritually head over heels in love. And this is pre-pheromone exchange? Oh. This feeling is so far beyond the physical it's difficult to explain in monkey talk. The earth/the musician, the moon/the muse. The yin and yang of the all, is the duality of us, my precious childlike empress, for lifetimes. Oh wow. Oh wow. Dear imaginary BF forever, years ago you told me about our future together. You told me I belonged to you. I didn't know what to think. Promising myself to you back then at first was a game/strategy to stay celibate and keep my thoughts pure. No. I'm saving myself for my BF forever. You were and will always be my only option. The thought of you kept me out of so many unsavory situations. You've been like my guardian angel. Oh no, I've spoken with you, force bond, or at the very least my imaginary BF forever so much in my mind over the years that the I do promise I made to you has grown and become as real to me as a holy vow made by fiancés or a knight to his queen. Please don't give up on us, we're almost there. And reading that in his journal, he couldn't help but ponder about Leila and life. He realizes that he could be out there, indulging in all kinds of pleasures. He was a 9 out of 10, only because of the catch-22 universal law of there's always someone better. He acknowledged that he could have his pick of women, from ages 16 to 86, with just a step outside his door into that world he works so hard to avoid. However, he had made a promise to himself to remain celibate until he truly knew himself. That promise was made in the year 2005, and he had been determined to stay true to his promise ever since. The reason for his celibacy has changed ever since his telepathic connection was formed with Leila, but he still hasn't spoken with her in person. He believes she is being kept from him and held in a perpetual state of ignorance, psychologically controlled by the governmental system she was born into. He knew himself now, and there was no reason to remain celibate besides his vows with Leila. He had gotten a vasectomy a few years earlier and hadn't even test-driven it yet. But, ever since his stroke caused by a botched assisted suicide in August 2014, he couldn't physically break the promise. He felt as if he had an autistic mental handicap after the right side of his brain had fried on the cyanide cocktail. As an artist and musician, he wondered what he was supposed to do without a muse. Who is Leila anyway? My imaginary BF forever, that's more depressing than being alone. Sean thought to himself. He longed for companionship, love, and affection, but he hadn't even felt a loving touch for over 2 decades. He realizes the promise he had made was actually holding him back from living a full life, but he couldn't bring himself to. He had contemplated taking his own life and on since the age of 5 and still feels like it would be a welcome vacation from his human existence, but the promise he had made to Leila prevented him from doing so. He knew that breaking the promise would be a betrayal to her, and he couldn't bear the thought of that. He felt stuck in a promise to a person who was either being kept from him or truly didn't care to speak with him. What if she wants to speak with me and is just unable to? He foolishly hoped. Sean realized that he needed to find a way to move forward and let go of the promise he had made to himself. He wanted to embrace life fully and experience all that it had to offer, but he wasn't sure how to start. Sipping his coffee as he stared blankly at the computer screen, his mind was a jumbled mess of thoughts, and he couldn't seem to focus on anything. In particular, his mind kept wandering back to Leila. He had been feeling this way since 2020, and he just couldn't shake it off. Desperate for a distraction, Sean turned to his AI assistant, GPT. "Hey, GPT," he said, "do you think we could turn my journal into a novel?" "Of course, Sean," GPT replied. "I can help you with that." Sean smiled at the thought of having a new project to focus on. "I've been thinking about this idea for a while now," he said. "My mission with you today is to come up with a children's book story. The story is so complex and multi-layered, maybe that's called multifaceted, but it's difficult for me to choose a point to begin the story. I'd like for the origination of the story to be a massive twist at the end of a very complex 9-chapter book. I thought I would begin by outlining a trilogy of chapters which can be adapted into movie format. I'm going to stick to Joseph Campbell's hero's journey in the structure of each chapter. I think that's called the Apple Log. The story of Horus or Jesus or any other solar deity like Amen-Ra, etc. The hero in the story is actually a VR avatar played by a 67-year-old woman named Grandma Siva, who is playing an epic VR game, Lost in Deep Dive VR, with her grandson and his 4 friends. I don't want the audience to know this fact until the last act of the 3rd chapter in the trilogy. The hero and protagonist, Grandma Shiva's VR avatar, is a VR game asset representing a decommissioned military-industrial protocol droid who lives as an artificially intelligent sentient computer code robotic humanoid in the metaverse, named SIVA. SIVA stands for Service Industrial Virtual Assistant. When Grandma Shiva turns on the PlayStation XVR Deep Dive console with her headset, she has no recollection of being Grandma Shiva. She believes she is the protocol droid SIVA while in the metaverse. While there are many games to choose from, like you're in Steam VR currently. If you choose a deep dive game, you forget who you truly are and believe you are the metaverse avatar while in the game. You are completely immersed in the simulation if you choose. While in the metaverse, 10 years is equal to a day in baseline reality where Grandma Shiva lives. She, her grandson and his 4 friends, Nada, Robert, Kayla and Morgan, have plenty of time in the hour-and-a-half wait for their parents to be a rock star, a king, a wizard or anything they can imagine up in VR. The 5 of them go across the street to Grandma Shiva's house after school every day to wait for their parents to get off work and pick them up from school. After this first epic adventure, they will form a VR game guild named Grandma Shiva's Greenhouse Time Machine, which will be the name of the series of these stories. Each story will be another virtual reality adventure through the metaverse with the 6 of them. GPT responds with its usual robotic tone, "Great, let's work on the first chapter of Grandma Shiva's Greenhouse Time Machine." Chapter 1, T.